Feeling lost and alone? Looking for validation from your partner, only to find the feeling of rejection and continued frustration? You're together yet so far apart. Now your frustration has turned into disdain and resentment. Your insecurities have begun to affect every aspect of your life. Ironically, you have now become the cold and detached one, shielding yourself from the uncertainties of your relationships. Dr. April Brown has created Bringing Intimacy Back, a series of discussions that are designed to help you reclaim what you have lost along the way. Dr. April will help you rediscover and reconnect to the intimate relationship your heart so desires. Go to www.bringingintimacyback.com today and let the healing begin.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. On this show, we aim to help you increase the intimate connections between you, your partner, your family, your higher power, your community. We give you the secret power to intimacy to create a life you love, or love the life you love. So on today's show, as you guys know, we are in times that we've never been in before. And so today's topic is complex emotions during COVID-19. And when this whole thing in COVID started back, for me, I think I got involved in it in the sense of from work and from personal life back in March. And I was just trying to figure out, how can I help my clients? How can I help myself? And I went and I heard, actually online, I heard a wonderful speaker, Dwight Bain. And it was such, he did psychological recovery through this. And that inspired me so much that as soon as the workshop was done, I begged him to come on the show. So for today's guest, I have Dwight Bain. Thank you so much, Dwight, for being on the show.
I'm very honored to be with you, Dr. April. We are going to today speak to some of the anxiety, the stress, the pressure, because we are the first generation in our lifetime to be able to deal with a pandemic. And I know this, one day it will end, and it will end better if we can stick together and stay intimate and close through these very challenging times.
Yes, definitely. Well, let me tell you guys a little bit about Dwight Bain. He's a trusted media source, having been quoted and featured in the Washington Post, New York Times, Orlando Sentinel, and many radio and television stations across the major network. He has challenged thousands of audience to create a positive change in organizations like Toyota, Advent Health, and the U.S. Army, and many more. He is skilled as a communicator and led to being selected as the best speaker. You guys listen to this, the best speaker in Florida 3 years in a row by Toastmasters International. He is a best-selling author on the subject of creating change through his books, blogs, Chicken Soup of the Soul stories, and he's a lifelong resident of Orlando, where he lives with his wife over 30 years. He's also a strong and a wonderful counselor and a mentor to many people, therapists throughout the world, I believe. His purpose is to help leaders and organizations in rewriting their story through strategic change. So please let us welcome again, Dwayne. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. And thanks again for the opportunity, because nobody's ever lived through this, but I know that we can learn from each other. With a pandemic, we're recording today, week 17, and we look at this week by week. We're learning about this disease as we go. We're making adjustments, and here's where to wear a face mask. Here's how to do physical distancing. Here's how to open back up a business. Unemployment numbers are still very, very high. So many people are stressed. And if I can't control the stress on the outside, I want to be able to control my moods on the inside. If I can't manage the stress and the pressure on Wall Street, I want to focus on what happens on my street. And that's why talking about relationships is essential, because if you have strong relationships, you'll get through this better. If you are isolated, if you're going through isolation, desperation, and you're feeling like you're in it alone, it is essential to plug into healthy supports, healthy community, because nobody will get through this alone. But together, I know we can. And I'm thankful we can talk about that today, give your listeners some of these strategies to make their life at home a little bit better. We'll survive. I'll say that many times today, April, because it's easy to think this will last forever, and it will end. tough times never last, tough people do, is how Dr. Robert Schuller used to describe it. And that's still true today.
Yes. And before we get into the complex emotion during COVID-19, I really want to ask Dwight, how are you doing?
Thank you for asking. I can remember when I was working with a team in New York City on the Pile after the terrorist attacks. And every day we were doing what we could. Our team was there for months. And I remember on a radio talk show, a host named Lisa Williams, she asked me that question. I was unprepared.
Okay.
And ever since, and I started to cry because these are hard times.
Yes.
And so thank you for asking, because we're all impacted in different ways. I haven't been able to see my father, who I was one of his caretakers, but because I have some responsibilities in the community, I haven't seen him in person. We've talked FaceTime, but over 4 months. So there are challenges, but because of having a strong faith, having strong relationships, and practicing something I call aggressive self-care, I'm happy to report today that my physical body is healthier than when COVID started. My wife said, we are going to eat clean during COVID lockdown. I'm 30 pounds lighter. She's 20 pounds lighter, because you can't control what's happening on the outside, but you can control you. Mm-hmm. You know, my sister, she always makes me laugh. She said, they want you to wear a face mask inside your house. I said, why? She said, to keep you from eating and snacking and stress eating. And I went, well, there's probably some truth to that.
Yes.
But to be able to know, we want to control what we can. I can't control global economy and recession, but I can control my mood. I can manage my mindset. And if you have mental toughness, mental resiliency, Dr. April, you can survive this. You can survive just about anything. So my marriage is better than it was 4 months ago. My physical health is better. Financially, I think we're stable and strong. We've used up some savings, but the goal is to remember, and this is a key principle for your listeners.
Yes. Okay, what is it?
Hard times, difficult times, right? I can't focus on the big stuff. So I'm going to focus on the things I can control. You can control you. You can control what's called box breathing. The Navy SEALs teach this. It's a relaxation technique you learn in yoga. You can control your heart rate, your respiration, your blood pressure. You and I can control our nutritional intake. We can control the amount of sleep that we're getting. We can control taking care of these physical bodies. But after night will come day. This will end. After the winter will come springtime. Always happens that way. After a recession will come progression and opportunity. And so to be able to take the long view, other people have gotten through difficulties. We will too. How do you do it? One step at a time, one healthy decision at a time. And that starts with conversations just like this one.
Yeah. And since you mentioned the word control, and I know you've worked in the trenches with Sandy Hook shootings, Columbine, Hurricane Katrina, as you mentioned, the New York City 9/11. So you've helped out a lot. And many of us are helping healthcare workers. And some of them, and some of all of us, including myself, we're control freaks.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, here we are. You know, it's like a 12-step group. Hi, my name is Dwight. I'm a control freak. Yeah, I'm there.
So how do you stop, like you said, and realize this is the only thing we can control is really ourselves. We can't control how all this, you know, and my toughest cases many times are with the healthcare workers, because it's so hard to see what they're going through.
Yeah, it's essential to be able to take a breath. The prefrontal cortex of our brain, this section right here, is where we do our executive thinking, our executive functioning. And when I'm stressed, everybody's stressed. Everybody is impacted by this. Everybody is affected. Not everybody has the same coping skills. Not everybody has the same strategies of support. And that's why not everybody is coming through this the same way. Same stress, same pressure, same crisis, but not everybody's managing it well. That's why some people will actually come out of this stronger, more resilient, wealthier, more prosperous. They will have captured market share. Their relationships will be healthy, stronger, better. Why? There are two paths in this type of a crisis. One path is continual strength. The other path, these are the people who are trying to control things that they can't control. That will exhaust you, deplete you, wear you out. And so what I like to do is sometimes pull from stories I like to look at stories like a young woman that was fired from her job in television because her producer said, "You're too fat," and fired her in Baltimore, Maryland. She had a mentor named Maya, and Maya Angelou said to a young Oprah Winfrey, "Girl, you don't have to believe what they tell you. We'll get another job." She goes to Chicago. She'd been criticized. "You're too personal. You share too much of your story on TV. Nobody cares." She goes to Chicago. A man named Phil Donahue, the reigning king of daytime television, she topples him, becomes the queen of daytime television, becomes a billionaire in the process. Why? Because you knocked me down in Baltimore, I will rise up stronger in Chicago. I can have control of my choices. In psychology, they teach stimulus response. Not true. Maybe true for animals, Pavlov's dog. Stimulus, something happens. I get a choice. It will change the outcome. It's not just bad things happen to the economy. Oh my gosh, we're screwed. It's not just bad things happen out there. We're dead people. No, you and I get a choice. And when we choose that spot in the middle, when I choose to be mentally healthy, spiritually strong, relationally resilient, when I choose in the middle, these are things I can control. And so when people say, "You don't understand how bad it is," I'll say, do you have a library card? Do you have a Netflix subscription? Do you have Disney Plus? Let's find some biographies about Maya Angelou, who at one time in her career to feed her baby boy was a sex worker. At one time, she was a cook. By the time she passed, she had 55 honorary doctorates. Why? She reinvented. Tough times didn't knock her down forever. Tough times knock us down. And when you get knocked down, you ask for help, you get back up. And that's what I want your listeners to be able to do. I don't know their tough time, but I know, April, if they were sitting in the studio with us right now and we could hear their story, we would go, wow, that's tough. What are your choices? What options do you have? I teach this, taught it to my kids, called the Yahoo principle. Yahoo!
Yahoo, okay.
Right? Yahoo. Look at the initials. You always have options and opportunities. YAHOO. You always have options. You always have opportunities. I'm going through a tough time, but I don't have to let it knock me down forever. My company laid me off. You know, you get laid off from a company, you go through a tough time. Walt Disney went through that, invented something called Mickey Mouse. Going through a tough time, if you look at the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, what happened? Those tough times empowered them to get creative. Remember I said there's two paths. The resilient path, you'll get more creative, more focused. The other path, you'll get more stressed, more overwhelmed. And you get a choice, but you have to take a breath. You have to calm your thinking. You have to have powerful conversations just like this one to be able to reinvent. If that's what you're facing in your career, this could be the best time of your life.
Definitely, yes. Well, we're going to take a little break here, but in this little break, I want you to let the audience know how they can get more information about you.
Oh, well, how kind. So all you have to do is go to DwightBain.com, DWIGHTBAIN.com. You can follow me on social media at Dwight Bain across all social media. I post every day about resiliency, inspiration, how to overcome difficult times, because I teach on one topic, and the topic is change. If you're going through a tough time, a crisis, maybe you need counseling focus. That's been my background over 30 years. But for many people, their lives were kind of flatlined. They came through the lockdown and they were just kind of bored. You know, is this all there is in my marriage and my job with money? I'm kind of bored. Those people need coaching. Those individuals need a challenge. They need to be able to say, what were you born to do? And if you know there's more that I can do in my marriage, in my family, in my relationship, my partner and I are at a bad spot, you get a chance to work on this. You can reinvent. You have a choice. And that's what I do. I help people change. And watching that has been the greatest joy of my life.
Amazing. Great. So a lot of things that you're talking about is resiliency. Yeah. What are some tips on helping people learn how to be resilient? Is it something you're born with or something that you learn? And I know the support system is, something that really impacts.
Well, it really is. Is it something you're born with? No, unless you were blessed to have teenage parents like me, because I grew up around teenage parents who said, yeah, those people trying to shame us, but special birth, special purpose. That's God's plan for you, young one.
Of course.
Right? So if you've grown up around amazing parents, and I was blessed to have amazing parents, then you just grew up kind of looking at the adults in your life going, tough times. Oh, look, they turned the electricity off. We're going to get some candles. We're going to be okay. If you, I don't know how to say this without hurting feelings. If you were born with parents who all the bills were paid, the money was always good, everybody liked each other, you had, Christmas was always fun, you never had a rough time, I'm kind of sorry for you, because you're going to have to go learn resiliency by listening to some stories of some people with some battle scars. They've got the tats and the piercing that say, I've been knocked down, but not knocked out. Because you learn resiliency. It's a learned attribute. You're not born with it, but if you grew up with hardship, difficulty, and some of the greatest stories that we draw inspiration from are because we watch people get knocked down, but they got back up. Chuck Wepner at one time was trying to be the heavyweight champion of the world. 1972, he's fighting Muhammad Ali. He didn't win, but he kept in the fight. A guy in 1972 named Sylvester Stallone, watching on sports, Wide World of Sports, says, that guy keeps getting hit, but he never gives up. I'm going to write a screenplay about Rocky Balboa, the Italian stallion, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I think people would be inspired by the story. They were. The movie was made for less than $1 million, launched the career of Sly Stallone because he made a film about don't quit. Won the Academy Award because Americans said, I need a story like that. And I don't know what your Rocky story is, but if you don't have one, go find one, because resiliency comes from living through the battle, coming out on the other side. And I believe, April, that your listeners, if we were live and we could take call in, I think that people would call in and say, you have no idea what I'm going through in my marriage, no idea what my partner puts me through, no idea what's happening with money. And we would listen to those stories and we would say, what keeps you going strong? And they would tell us, and we would say, that's it. That's what you stick with. That's what you stay with, because the goal of life, keep moving forward. The secret to life, it goes on. Dwight, you don't know what I did yesterday. I really screwed up. Hey, my name's Dwight. I'm a sinner. I go to a 12-step group. That's how we introduce ourselves. But I know this, you and I can go on. We can press on. COVID-19 will end, but the lessons that you learn, the lessons you teach your baby boys and baby girls, those lessons will live forever. Those are the lessons we're talking about. That's how you get mental toughness. That's how you get resiliency. One next breath at a time, one right step at a time. When we move forward like that, it changes our destiny, changes our story, but it will ripple into the lives of our kids, our friends, and others will be encouraged, because they'll draw power and courage from how they see us living our lives. And that's why these conversations are so important.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how you mentioned that you have to find that thing that motivates you to make you stronger. And you got to focus on that to continue to move. Yes. In some of your writings, you talk about C19, a mental health timeline.
Yeah, C19. Yeah, absolutely. So C19 is just an abbreviation for COVID-19. And to be, honest and a little embarrassed, April, 5 months ago, I didn't know what C19 was. 5 months ago, if you said, what was Zoom? I would say, I think it's a cleaning product. It will make your bathroom sparkle. I didn't know what Zoom was. I didn't know what COVID-19 was. I'd kind of heard about it in January, but I was absolutely out of the loop. So February comes, I'm hearing a little bit more about it. March comes. And so here's the COVID-19 timeline. In fact, I'll provide one that your listeners can go to your website. I want them to be able to have it, because a global pandemic comes in 3 stages. And right now we just entered stage 2. We're recording this in July 2020. We just entered stage 2. Stage 2 is 6 months. Stage 3 will start in January, and that will be approximately 12 to 13 months, right? So a pandemic like this one, COVID-19, we're looking at the next year and a half of our lives from the date of this recording. But what I created was a mental health timeline so you could see what is the normal psychological reaction. Because remember, it's normal in mid-March 2020 to be freaked out that there is no toilet paper at my grocery store, right? That was normal because people were like, oh my gosh, we're going to run out of toilet paper. The herd mentality, people start to panic. Remember this prefrontal cortex, and they stop thinking clearly. And because everyone said we're going to run out of toilet paper, just like right now, there's kind of a shortage of coins, quarters, nickels, dimes, pennies, Because people are like, oh, I better hold on to metal currency instead of paper currency. And you say, where's that coming from? It's herd mentality. Don't try to explain it other than people, when they're panicked, will make very bad decisions. They'll think about that later and go, why did I worry about toilet paper, right? But remember, in mid-March 2020, April, it was about, oh, I've got to have these things and then I'll be okay, right? So the mental health timeline looks at what is normal, listen, in an abnormal situation. This is the most abnormal, large-scale disaster in the history of our lifetime. And I know that we are learning, just like we've learned from every mass disaster in the past. We learn as a people, we get stronger, we figure things out together. One of us is not as strong as all of us. One of us is not as insightful. We learn from these conversations. And I want our conversation, April, to ripple into others, because COVID-19 timeline, we just entered a 6-month stretch that will take us into late December. It'll take us into early January. But I know this, when I go 5 months into the future on the timeline, because it's important to know what's coming. If you know what's coming, you're not as panicked. If you're a college freshman and somebody, your sister went to college there and she says, let me tell you the ropes, let me tell you what in the dining hall to eat, what don't eat, right? What do? We learn from somebody else's experiences. And on the timeline, if we know what's coming, it'll take that anxiety level down. But I can tell you, here's what the holiday season looks like. I'll be home for Christmas. The number one song, 1943, Bing Crosby sang it. I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Because America was at war. And at war, I couldn't stop the war. I couldn't stop the Nazis. But I could promise, Mama, I'm going to try to be home for Christmas. And I think what we're going to see this year is family, home, people being able to say, I just want to be together. I don't think there's going to be 1.1 million people in Times Square watching the big ball drop. I think they're going to be at home with the people they love, with good food. And I think that family, the work you do, April, is going to be more important than ever, because I believe this holiday season, people will say, I want a meaningful relationship. I deserve to be loved, cared for. Our home should be the safest place. No matter if all hell is breaking loose on the outside, this home will be a place of love and support, acceptance, intimacy. Everything you teach about will be more important than ever. And it happens this Christmas if people choose the path of resiliency and strength. And we're going to give them the tools to be able to do that. And as I said, it starts in conversations just like this one.
And I believe you're right. People are now focusing so much more on their families, their relationships. Yes.
Yeah, they will. And it will matter. Now, here's the other side of that. It may hurt some people's feelings, but what if you're in a dead marriage? What if you're in a distant relationship? What if you have toxic people around you and you've been locked up with them for 8 weeks? I'll tell you what people are thinking, April. They're saying, am I going to live the rest of my life with toxic dysfunction? And what's going to happen is they're going to say, well, hold up, time out. We need to work on this relationship right now, because I've spent 8 weeks and I haven't had to run and do this and take the kids to soccer practice. And I've had 8 weeks to see maybe a glimpse of our future. And we need to make some changes. And we need to make those changes right now. And you're a change agent to help. That's why your work will be more important, because I believe more people than ever will say, it is unacceptable for me to choose the path that I saw my father walk. And he stayed in toxic. He stayed in dysfunction just because he thought it was right. About killed the man. I'm not going to do that. I choose healthy, or I choose change. But I do not choose to stay in something that is toxic, dysfunctional, dying, without at least saying, stop the presses. We're going to do something about this. We're going to do it right now.
Right. And I'm glad that you mentioned that we're only in phase 2. Because sometimes people are thinking, I'm not going to make a change until this is over. And they're, as you know.
2022 is a long time from right now. They want it to be over, April. They want to be able to say, I want to be able to go to my local AMC movie theater and I want to see the new Mission Impossible movie. And I want the old world, but old world's never coming back. Yeah. A disease has reshaped culture. Now we will be okay. We will survive, but listen to what Charles Darwin said. It is the species that's the most adaptable to change. And if you're able to change quickly, you actually get stronger through a situation like this. Now, listen, friends, if you are not changing quickly in your small business, it could be over. If you're not changing in your relationship, it could get really bad really fast. Your relationship with your teenage son, your teenage daughter, if you see this is going sideways, we need to do something. We'll do it now. COVID-19 will impact our culture another 16 to 18 months. You say, well, I heard there's a vaccine in about 16 to 18 months.
Right.
16 to 18. I mean, we're on week 17 as we're recording this, April. This is going to be affecting us for a long time, but it doesn't have to end our ability to build a good quality of life. In a difficult time, you can actually get better, stronger. In a difficult time, you can maximize to the greatest of your potential. But it comes back to those words. You have to make a choice, and you have to sometimes say, I need some help, and you have to do what we're doing right now, and that is to open up a conversation and to say, I'm not going to go through this alone. And that's why I know that your listeners, your viewers, are going to want access to some of the resources. I'll give it to you. Please share it with the people that you love, the people that you care about, because we're not in this alone. And together, we can get through it better.
Yes, with hope.
No question.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Please definitely share the information you have, and we'll put it out on our social media.
I absolutely will. I look forward to that. And I'm going to do something that my college-age daughter, who works at Walt Disney, she said, Dad, you gotta tell the world about Dr. April. So I'm going to take, all right, big smile. Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. Because she said, you gotta talk her up on social media. So in just a few moments, I'm going to be talking up on social media, because I want all the people in my social media stream to be able to hear this conversation, because I want them to go home and say to their partner, hey, bro, hey, sis, stops here. We need a healthy relationship, and we need to change so that our home, because this year, Christmas financially could be pretty rough, April. Right. But the greatest gift people could give each other is what you teach. If they could have a healthy marriage, a healthy family, a healthy home environment, they have the greatest gift of all. That's worth more than any gift they could financially buy, because it's something that will last for a lifetime, and it's something they can teach their children for the storms to come.
Exactly. Thank you so much for everything. God bless you.
Been a pleasure.
Yes.
God bless.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.